Alex Ansary here with just a relaxed opening morning podcast. We're just going to go over a few snippets of news. I haven't really talked about China in detail for some time, nor the president. A lot of things are just falling into place. I'm not surprised to see a more aggressive stance on China. I'm not surprised to see China's response to the United States. I'm not surprised to see a trade war. So if you're new to my content, check out some of my original commentary that goes back for years. And the amount of years I've been talking about 2025 during a solar peak in which I think that we're going to see the apex of this conflict. And I think that we're actually going to see the sparks, if you will, in the next few years. Right now, we're already seeing what I would call permanent moves in a negative direction. And actions and moves that we have not yet seen before. For example, the display of force, new shows of force that reach new levels, and it's become sensitive on YouTube to talk about these things. So if you appreciate me bringing you updates on what's taking place with China, please be more vocal if you can. Okay, that would be appreciated, because what happens is people hear about this news and they hear people report on it, and they think that anyone that reports on these things or other things is a part of the propaganda machine. And they may not know, right? That 10 years ago, I warned you in a very not so well known, but a very important interview to myself. And I had Leon Legant, who was a guest at that time, 2007, 2008. And so for those of you that are longtime viewers, or those that have seen the video at the front page of my YouTube channel, the homepage, 10 years ago, he talked about China and Russia counterattacking the United States in the future. And once I learned about the solar cycles, the highs and the lows, so there's a low, there's a high, there's a high, there's a low. There's a connection between war and peace, and solar cycles and war. War and solar cycles. You can read some of the articles online. You can watch some of my videos to get caught up on this phenomena. And there's literally a 2,500-year history of major battles and wars breaking out during periods of increased solar flares. It's because of how the humans are affected, and thus the powers that be, the elite stage in the wars, during some moments are a little bit more effective at their mind control. And so we're ramping up. We're ramping up. And so you're seeing this ramp up with Russia. You're seeing this ramp up with China. So we're going to read from the New York Times. And there's a lot of information. I'm just going to pause before I start reading and the page loads. I have a lot of information to share with you. It's not just rip and read. It's over 10 years of looking at this stuff from outside the perspective of Russia love, but anti-US, which is basically what you're getting from my peers in the quote-unquote alternative media. Russia good, US bad. I mean, from the beginning, this has been propaganda. There is no good guy in this superstate nation grab for power. And so for those of you that get this, that understand this, you might also understand there's not a lot of us in the alternative media that speak about these things. I need to build more support outside of YouTube, on the other platforms, and I'll expand my coverage. That means please sign up at outsidethebox.vhx.tv today if you can. Growth has flatlined, it's frozen, but we just got a new subscriber. I need that help and support from you, in addition to joining Patreon for the private podcasts. So you're not only contributing to the videos, you're getting access to podcasts that I do almost every single day. And if some of you want me to get back into commentary about relationships, now that I've been off grid a few years, and I've stepped back even more so than the past from seeking love in all the wrong places, if you will, and I've become even more disciplined as a single man, doing my own thing off the grid without feeling like I got to put up a front. Let me know as well if you want to hear more commentary along those lines, how things are going with that, how I'm holding up. But I will be expanding commentary in the private podcast section with some content only posted there for supporters. So please consider the value of this channel to yourself and what you would be willing to contribute to this channel as I create more content and not limit myself to YouTube. I see bigger YouTubers freaking out that aren't even creating private content for their supporters at Patreon. Why not? They have hundreds of thousands of subscribers. I only have a few thousand after 14 years. But I'm not going to go to YouTube headquarters and freak out. I'm going to move my platform somewhere else, but also see the writing on the wall, because this is the writing on the wall. As we begin in this article, White House defends trade policies as Trump aims new threat at China. China is a threat to those of us that are YouTubers in the end that are concerned about China's rise. And I consider myself to be at the forefront at reporting on matters concerning China's embedded nature within our own government for multiple administrations and the ones to come. One could even make an argument that China is running the U.S. elections. So let's talk about the article from the New York Times. President Trump defended his approach to trade policy on Friday, just hours after he doubled down on a White House plan to punish China by threatening to levy tariffs on an additional $100 billion in Chinese imports. Mr. Trump, in a tweet, criticized both China and the World Trade Organization, saying that the Chinese get tremendous perks and advantages, especially over the United States. Does anybody think this is fair? We were badly represented. The WTO is unfair to us. That followed another early morning tweet in which Mr. Trump boasted that the new metals tariffs that he had put into effect on China and other nations had not hurt American consumers as his critics predicted. The price of aluminum per pound has been falling since February, a decline that started before the tariffs were imposed. Mr. Trump's decision to exempt Canada, which supplied more than half of America's aluminum imports in 2016, has also helped to soften the blow from tariffs, companies say. The president's criticism of the World Trade Organization are not new. Many of its top advisors have complained that the World Trade Organization's process for reviewing and solving trade disputes has put the United States and Western countries at a disadvantage. But the United States has said it will take its complaint about Chinese trade practices, including the tactics it uses to gain access to American intellectual property, to the global body as part of a sweeping trade action. The White House announced last month. That investigation found that China cheats the United States after $50 billion annually through pressure and other coercive measures aimed at gaining access to American technology. Mr. Trump also defends his surprise announcement Thursday night that the United States would consider an additional $100 billion in tariffs on China, a total which would triple an earlier trade threat. The president re-upped a tweet from Wednesday that maintained the tariff threats did not amount to a trade war with China. In a radio interview that was taped on Thursday and aired on Friday, Mr. Trump acknowledged his approach to China could cause a little pain to financial markets, but that it would be worth it in the long run. Quote, "No, we could. The easiest thing for me to do would just be to close my eyes and forget it." End quote, Mr. Trump said on WABC Radio's Bernie and Sid in the Morning show. Quote, "If I did that, I'd not be doing my job, so I'm not saying that there won't be a little pain, but the market's gone up 40%, 42%, so you might lose a little bit of it, but we're going to have a much stronger country when we're finished. And that's what I'm all about. We have to do things other than or that other people won't do." On Friday morning, the White House issued a additional statement defending the president's actions. Year after year, China continues to distort global markets and harm U.S. businesses and consumers with unfair trade practices, the press office said. Continuing the quote, "The president is for free trade, but it also must be fair trade. Addressing unfair trade practices and ensuring that global trade is free, fair, and reciprocal will have a significant positive long-term impact on the U.S. economy." Continuing with the article, the author writes, but the approach has come under swift and stinging criticism from lawmakers of both parties as well as industries whose businesses depend on access to China's market. Also, by the way, this is me speaking, not the article, China's firing back on wine vineyards in California. So they're about to take a big, big hit. And I can go on and on. There's some other things going on as well with troops being sent down to the border. I also made the prediction that Alex Jones would lead his listeners into a trap in a podcast I made years ago down at the border. And that it would be a BLM conflict with Chinese troops. So we're not yet at that level. It looks like there could be maybe some other conflict. But this is something I see coming later. So But whatever's happening with the National Guard troops being sent down to Mexico could be a part of something big. Only time will tell. Is it another problem, reaction, solution? Is the wall really being built to keep Americans in? Well, I've been saying that since 2005, before Trump was actually selected. And Ron Paul, the only presidential candidate that I've ever supported, has said the same thing. So a link is down below to the New York Times report. Get vocal, get loud, if you want to hear me continue to talk about the geopolitical thing and situation from the perspective that you know that you're going to get right here at OTBTV. And please support if you can. There's a link down below also for Patreon for just a few dollars a month. And if a few of you can join up today and show your support, and especially those that actually have the means of support, the question is, why not? Thank you for listening.